Good morning. I'm Rachel Poole, and this is my first time preaching, but some of you may recognize me from being lay reader or worship leader on some weekends, but most of you probably know me as being the pastor's daughter, and for some of you, I can see that's just clicked right now. But yeah, my dad is Pastor Matt, and I think he's been doing a pretty good job here, preaching, but I'm going to try and set the bar a little higher this week. I'm just kidding. Hopefully a little of his good preaching will rub off on me. So I'm going to be a junior at Mount Hebron this year, and most everyone knows junior year is the most important and stressful year of high school. It seems that this is the year that teachers and counselors expect that you'll have your whole life planned out by the time you're a senior. I can even remember taking some college career tests in 8th grade. It's crazy. Many people, especially students, are pressured to know what college they want to go to, what classes they want to take, what career or job they want to have, and even what age they want to get married. I, on the other hand, have no idea what I want to do. But our society expects each of us to have our lives planned out step by step. And we're so worried about being successful and prospering and having the best life possible that if we don't have everything planned out or things don't work out the way we want them to, we feel like we've lost control. And who doesn't like being in control? I know I do, and that's why we fight over for the TV remote. Every time we're in the living room, my dad usually gets the control. He likes being in control. But a lot of us like being in control, and we feel more comfortable that way because we think that everything will go the way we want it to. However, it's not as comfortable when we lose control because we don't know what to expect next. I know I think that. Before my family moved here 2 years ago, we lived in Frederick, Maryland for about 10 years. So I lived there all through elementary and middle school. I had a ton of great friends who I had grown up with most of my life. And the year we moved, I was in 8th grade. And I have to say, 8th grade year was like the best year of my life. First of all, most 8th graders are very cocky. Except me, of course. But they think they're all cool and stuff because they're at the top of the school again and they're about to go to high school. But besides that, I had a great group of friends. Both my soccer and basketball teams went undefeated that year. I had several cute boys following me around, which my dad didn't like very much. But I got straight A's for all 3 years in middle school. He liked that part. Most importantly, I was about to go to Tuscarora High School, home of the Titans. And I was pretty excited. I knew exactly how high school was going to work out. I planned on making the soccer team that fall and the basketball team that winter. I planned on taking the highest level classes a freshman could possibly take so I could get into a good college like the University of Maryland. And then I wanted to become a marine biologist and work at SeaWorld. That was what I wanted to do at the time. Plus, I wanted to be in a drama club and just experience high school with all my friends. However, those plans were washed down the drain one night at the dinner table when my dad announced he had gotten a new job as the lead pastor at Glenmar United Methodist Church, and that we would be moving to Ellicott City that summer. I tried not to show it, but I was heartbroken. Now I'm glad I moved here, but at the time, I didn't want to leave my friends, my home, and basically everything I'd ever known. And even though I was sad, I tried to look at it as a fresh start. So I formulated a new but very similar plan. But yet again, it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Moving was a lot harder than I expected. Our house wasn't close to being ready to move into when we were supposed to. So that meant we were in a tiny apartment for several months, which also meant sharing a room with my sister and having to be cooped up with her all summer long. It was really hard, not knowing anyone and not having any friends to hang out with. And in addition, my plans for making a soccer team were ruined by some very painful shin splints. I just felt so discouraged, and I remember texting one of my great friends that I met at a summer camp, Tyler, who is the kind of guy that will just listen to you and always be there for you. So I was texting him about how hard it was moving and how everything just wasn't working out the way it was supposed to. His reply was the verse, Jeremiah 29:11. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future." I remember he capitalized the word "you" every single time it was used in that verse. And I remember being overcome with a sense of relief that, it was a good reminder to me that God wasn't in control, or God was in control, I wasn't, despite what I may have wanted or thought. And sometimes we forget that everything isn't going to go as planned. I had to let God take control, and I had to trust that he was going to get me through, and that he had a special plan for me. Another thing we need to realize is that God doesn't randomly barge into our lives for no reason. There was a reason that God wanted my family to move here, and there was a reason that God didn't want me to make that soccer team. He had other plans for me. There were several times when I asked God, why? Why me? Why do I have shin splints? Why did you make me move here? Why did you make me leave all my friends? And I think a lot of us do that. We question God, and we get mad at him because things aren't working out the way we want them to. But ultimately, he's doing it for a reason. Looking back on it, I'm very glad those things happened to me. If I had made the soccer team, I wouldn't have gotten so involved in the youth group and the events here at church. I wouldn't have met all my amazing friends I've come to know through Glenmar. And most importantly, I would not be as close to God. I believe that God also decides to show up, especially when we're straying away from him. I had been in a point in my life where God was important, but probably not as important as he should have been. I've grown up in the church my whole life, and that's just how it's been. And I was always part of a strong church family, especially because my dad was always the pastor. I know that some people don't like being the pastor's kid, but I, on the other hand, love it. And just a few years before we moved here, my dad had accepted a job with a conference in which he wasn't with a church, but he was moving around to several churches and coaching other pastors. So for the first time in my life, we had to find a church where my dad wasn't the pastor and where we weren't so directly connected as we'd always been. We found a church that we went to every week and that we were somewhat involved in, but it didn't really feel like home or like the church for us. Because of that, I strayed away from God, and he wasn't as meaningful to me anymore. I think that when we moved here, though, God really decided to tug at me and change my plans so that I would delve into a closer relationship with him and live a life that was more pleasing to him. Not only was I growing in relationship with him, but I was also living out God's plan for us to glorify him and spread the message of Jesus Christ. Despite what we may want and think, life isn't just about us. God will prosper you and give you a great life and a great future, but he isn't going to do that just so we can live luxurious lives in huge houses, doing whatever we please. The past few weeks, Pastor Matt has been guiding us through the book of Philippians, which Paul wrote. Each week, he has talked to us about how the letters are telling us to lead a life that pleases God and that spreads the message of Jesus Christ. Basically, how to be a better Christian. Ultimately, God created us to live a life that spreads his message and glorifies him. We're not just supposed to focus on prospering ourselves, but as well as the rest of his people. A great example of this is the story of Bethany Hamilton. Many of you have probably heard or seen the movie Soul Surfer, or maybe have heard her story. She grew up in Hawaii with a passion for surfing and had been training to become a professional surfer basically all her life. But one day when she was out surfing, she was attacked by a shark and lost one of her arms. It was absolutely awful what had happened to her, but she had a strong relationship with God and great faith. Through her faith in God, she was able to overcome her ordeal and against all odds still become a professional surfer. Because of all the fame she got from the shark attack and from living out her dream to become a pro surfer, she was able to reach out to so many other people and was able to show others her faith in God. It allowed her to spread his glory and message to thousands of other people that may not have seen his amazing glory and power before. Her plans were obviously changed when she lost her arm, and many people had expected her to be an amazing surfer and a pro surfer, but that hope was lost for several people after the shark attack. But she trusted in God, and God prospered her into becoming a surfer anyways. But he also used that so she could spread her faith too. Our society especially is one that expects so much from us. Everyone knows that if you live in Howard County, you're supposed to have a huge house, an amazing education, a very successful career, and just as successful children. A lot of people want to be in control of their lives, so that they can make sure all those things can happen. I'm not an adult, so I haven't experienced those stresses in my life yet. However, I've definitely seen those pressures reflected in many of my classmates at school. My parents just encourage me to do what's best and be involved in things I want to be in. However, there are a lot of kids who already have their lives planned out by their parents or are expected to be top of the line successful. It's like you have to play an instrument and play a sport and be involved in as many after-school activities as possible, all while getting straight A's in AP and GC classes. Then when someone gets a B in a math class, it's like the world is over. Or if you don't get accepted into that Ivy League college, or if you don't get that job, or if you can't afford that fancy car or expensive house, life is over. We're so afraid that our lives will be completely messed up if just one thing doesn't seem to pan out the way it's supposed to. One thing Bethany had to do was trust in God and let Him take control of her life. It was something that I had to do also. I had to trust that everything was going to be okay, even though things weren't going the way I wanted them to. We may feel helpless and afraid of what is going to happen if we aren't in control. But if we let God take the reins, then we can trust that He will bring us through even the roughest times. The next few verses of Jeremiah 29 say, "Then you will call upon me and come to pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and will bring you back from captivity. I will gather you from all the nations and places where I have banished you, declares the Lord, and I will bring you back to the place from which I carried you into exile." If we just trust in Him and seek Him with all our hearts, He will bring us out of the exile. But the more we think that we're in control, the more frustrated we're going to become, and the harder it's going to be for us. But if we let God take control of our lives, He will relieve those frustrations and those worries that we may have. God will prosper you and give you hope, and He has the perfect future already planned for you. So instead of trying to figure it out ourselves, it's so much easier to just let God step in and guide us through the plans He already has. He's going to sometimes change our plans and step into our lives no matter what. But in order for us to really experience what He has planned for us and to really accept what God has planned for us, we must trust in Him and know that He is not doing this just to make life difficult. He is doing it because His plan for you is going to be what is best for you, and is for the plans for the life that is meant for you to live out, which may mean changing your plans that you'll become into a better relationship with Christ, and so that you can help spread the message of Christ. So don't worry if you feel like you don't have your life planned out, or if you feel like your plans aren't going the way they should be. God has His own plans for you and is going to use you in ways that you'll be able to live your life to its full potential. So just let God take the reins of your life and know that your plans are changing for a reason. God will guide you through the plans He has for you, and all you have to do is enjoy the ride and know that everything will be okay. So trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. Amen.